Hello, everybody. Welcome to Entre Comillas. I'm Eileen Acosta, your host, and today we have a very, very special guest that I'm super happy to have on here, Kayden Phoenix, comic book artist, filmmaker, and just all-around amazing person that I'm very grateful to have in our studio today. Kayden, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I know you went to New York and Malta recently. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Absolutely. It was really fun. Both of them, they're all completely different adventures. I've been to New York before, so it was my second time going to New York Comic Con. It was really amazing. I was in the Artist Alley, which they call the Dungeon, because that's downstairs. They have a downstairs and upstairs hall. And it's just, it's just a mass amount of people there. It's the number one Comic Con throughout all the United States. I still like San Diego better because I'm LA, of course.
I've never gone to San Diego Comic Con. I'm so jealous.
You gotta go. It's worth it. It's definitely worth it.
How was Malta?
Malta was the complete opposite of it's a little island right below Sicily, and so not a lot of people, which you knew that going in, it's a little bit island, it's like a little, it's a vacation spot.
Was it still fun though, like hanging around Malta? Was it beautiful?
It was really pretty. It's serene. It's like British people hang out there and they retire there. So we figured it's their Florida.
Oh, it's okay.
That's the way I figured it out.
I see British people. That must be nice. Going to some beautiful Italian island. Mm-hmm. That must be nice. Well, I have a couple of questions here for you. As you know, I always send my guests pre-production sheet in advance, and I just really want to talk about your journey and how it came to be that you went from filmmaker to comic book artist. But before all that, you have your roots, and I really want to talk about that and how you became the person that you are now. So if you can expand a little bit on your backstory and your Latina origins.
Got it. In one sentence. Go. No. Okay, so I am third generation East LA. I'm Chicana. East LA, went to Loyola Marymount University, majored in administration with emphasis in marketing. So, I did marketing afterwards, and it was really fun. There was no creative outlet to it at all. And so I started writing, and I chose screenwriting instead of novel writing because novels sound hard and boring, and screenwriting is I grew up around the film industry, not in the film industry at all. But, so I was like, okay, that's fun. I like movies. I can write it. And so I taught myself because I did not know how to write any screenplays, of course. And I was just like, these are great. And they were the worst screenplays in the world, right?
But did you use Final Draft and everything?
Yeah, Final Draft. Yeah. You read Save the Cat. You read all the stuff you're supposed to read, that everybody says you're supposed to read. So I didn't go to school for that. Yeah. And then, I just started getting better, and over time I got better and better. And, one day I was just like, okay, if I can throw anything up on the big screen, someone's going to buy my script, what's it going to be? And my first thought was a Latina superhero. So I was just like, okay, I can write that, right? I was just like, of course I can, because I'm doing it for myself, and for free. No one's paying me. And so I was like, okay, I can write one. If I write 5, I increase my chances that one of those 5 will be on the big screen. Right. And then I was like, okay, if there's 5, they have to be a team, because that only makes sense.
Right.
And so it was my little thought process all within that little quick 3 minutes. And so I just started writing out my superheroes. And from there, I shot a short film, a little sizzle to show it. I wrote out the feature-length screenplay, the first one, which is Jalisco. And then I have a pitch deck as well to pitch it.
Is your family from Jalisco by any chance?
My grandma's from Jalisco,
Oh
yes.
my God, that's so cool. So did you incorporate anything from Jalisco, culture specifically?
I did a nod to tequila, of course, just because you have to. But my grandma's name is Adela, and so the mentor character is Adela, of course. So that was really easy. Right. I did put Adelitas in it. Just there's little things that my mom does folklorico, and she's from East LA, but it's just all family stuff that I incorporated within Jalisco, because that was the first one I wrote out, and it's okay, it's it's a nod to everyone in honor of my family.
Great.
Yeah.
Can I ask what ultimately inspired you? Can I talk a little bit about your process, your art? What inspired you? Cartoons, anime, what was it?
So I grew up with the Disney animation, all the princesses, right? Because I'm a millennial, so I grew up with all the great Disney movies. Right. I got really lucky. And then I also grew up with all the really cool female action, Sigourney Weaver and Gina Davis. We were just, all of them were just really cool fighters on screen. And so I grew up with that, and obviously Chicana, so my mom, my grandma, literally everyone's were all fighters in general.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I mix visual, okay, cool, action-packed, and then pretty because it's Disney, right? So they all have big eyes and they have very soft chins. And then what I do right now, what's going on is anime is really pretty as well. They're way more advanced in regards to creativity and imagination. And so it's a little bit of that. Like some of them lean a little bit more, they're not as pointy of chins. That's one of the big differentiations of it all. And you can also tell like that we have different face shapes, right? Because it leans more Disney. So like there's a heart shape, and then there's more round and more square in regards to jaw lines. I did work with a lot of my artists are animators as well as just comic artists, and so they know how to differentiate that stuff, which is really amazing because I do not. But they, they're amazing, and so they can do such things. And so that's kind of how I mixed, or I found the tone that I like and the style, because I looked on Instagram and I was like, these are pretty, like what I think is pretty.
Right. Is there any artists that stood out to you while you were like in your search for like your signature style?
Yeah, they're great. So my main two ones for A La Brava, which is a superhero series, is Managilena Gonzalez, and she's Chicana from Albuquerque. She went to Long Beach for studying for animation as well.
Right.
So she did Jalisco and she did Ruca, and she's Chicana, so it worked out perfectly. And then I have a Mexican artist, Eva Cabrera, and she only does comics, doesn't do animation at all.
Right.
But she does Kim and Kim, and she does the Archie comics as well.
Oh, wow.
So Veronica and Kim.
Ooh, okay, so you have like a lot of like really cool people working on all of this stuff.
I do.
So I guess one of my questions that are on my sheet is, how did the industry standards and character generalizations impact your creative path and lead you to become kind of like this advocate for diversity in comics?
It's just really existing. Like my tag for Ruca, like my signature when I write it, is existo porque resisto, and like that's the truth of it. Like we're existing because we're fighting off society. We're fighting off all, the patriarchy and all this other like prejudice that we get just to exist in a society that doesn't want us. And so that's very much my superheroes, and that's very much what you see on media, right? Like, think of a Latina, it's a negative representation if you think of TV and film. And that's unfortunate because no one in my family is a negative stereotype. Like, we're not any of that stuff, and that is the only way that we're portrayed.
Moving on to like our next segment here is redefining superheroes, right? So tell us a little bit about A La Brava and the first Latina superhero team in comic book history. What was your vision for this unique superhero universe?
So my first two things in regards to the vision of it when I started is that they all had to be different heritages, right? Because Latina is a million different countries.
We come in different shades and different, we all have different cultures across the board.
Yeah, there's so many heritages, and I only had 5, and so obviously I missed a lot of everybody. Right. But, different heritages, because we don't see that in film and TV media, right? We just only have 1 or 2 particular heritages that get portrayed. And then also they're grounded issues. And so like you think of like superheroes in general, right? Like we can save Metropolis, we can save Gotham, we can save Central Park, but it's just like, how come no one saves a girl?
Right.
And so it's, and if they're in a team, they save the world or the universe, right? Like it's on that kind of scale. And it's just like, no one saves a girl unless it's the girlfriend, right? Unless you're Lois Lane or, or Mary Jane, I don't care about you. And that's really unfortunate that they have all this power and they don't do change. They just save the city because it's where they live.
Right.
And so who would I save? I would save girls. And so Jalisco is the first one, obviously takes place in Mexico. And it's like, okay, what's the problem in Mexico? It's the femicide.
Yeah.
Right? No one's saving the girls. And that's from like the 1970s that it's been documented,
Right.
And there's things like that. It's just like, we don't get saved. Nobody cares about us in general. And it's more than just Mexico, of course. It's Chile and like all that. But, it's everywhere. Yeah. And so like, why not bring attention to it? Why not create a superhero that can actually save them? And so that's one of the, they're all social injustices. That's just specific to Mexico. She's my Mexican superhero, but all the rest are American Latinas. And so just other social injustices like domestic violence, child trafficking, ICE, of course, and another one. Because in the detention centers, they mainly focus on the females more than the males in regards to like the rapes and the forced hysterectomies and all that extra stuff.
Right.
And so just bring to light, our injustices.
Right. And I love that you're doing that. Like, I mean, honestly, it's not spotlighted enough on. Mm-hmm. And can you talk a little bit about how you're using your characters, like expanding on that, right? Like putting up, bringing to focus like all of these less known or not as seen issues within the Latin community in your comics. Like, was that like a big reason for why you wanted to create this world? I don't know if I'm saying that right. I don't know, but like ultimately, I just want to know like how do you feel like your stories help bring these things to light, these issues to light?
Oh, the first part of all of that stuff is awareness. Right?
Yeah.
Like some people wrote me, which, it's a little bit more on the naive side. They're like, I didn't know about the femicide.
Right.
And it's like, my grandma's from Jalisco and the other one is from Chihuahua. So I knew about Mujeres de Juárez since I was small.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like, but that's because I was around it. And it's not personal to me, but it's like I was around it. And so I'm aware
and you've heard of it and you know about it. Same here.
Yeah.
I mean, especially, I think, I don't know how many women have gone missing in Juarez, for sure. That has been a huge thing. And I know recently they had the protests in Mexico regarding the femicide. It wasn't too long ago, if I'm not wrong. Correct me. It's been a while. I've been trying to like clear away from news lately because it's just been way too depressing.
It is.
Yeah, it is way too depressing. But I need to catch up on my news. But I know it's a huge issue, and I love that your comics are definitely bringing this stuff to light and helping people know about this stuff. I actually have a friend. This is from a different point of view, but she's an artist, and she had an art class in Joshua Tree, and she works with children. Nice. But on her side, they brought these kids from Watts, right, to do this art workshop. And one thing that she just shocked her was that none of them knew about the Watts riots, like at all, which is crazy to think about because they're from Watts. Yeah. But yeah, I'm sorry, bringing it back to like what we just talked about is just like, it's one of those things where it's just like, it's crazy how art can bring about these very important issues and spotlight them like your work does.
Yeah, and it allows it in a digestible form, which is really nice because it is a superhero story at the end of the day, right? It's their origin story of how they got their name, how they got their powers, and how they overcame whatever they have to overcome, their strife.
Right.
But it is the underlying issue of what you're slowly learning about this new world that you may not have been exposed to.
Right. Now, sorry, back to my question. I feel like I keep jumping around. All right, so how do you approach storytelling in comics? Like, I'm so curious about this and like just your process in general. Like, what are the central themes and messages you aim to convey in your work?
So I write out screenplays still. I still don't necessarily write comics, even though I just translate them into comics, but I do write screenplays.
Yeah, like in your writing in general, you know? Yeah.
And then I just think of themes. I like quotes. So I'm all about quotes. And so that is generally what I think of. So whatever my quote is the theme, exactly what it is. And, like, Loquita's my young one, so that was a little bit of a younger, like, she learns about courage. Courage doesn't always roar because she fights demons. And she's very scared because the demons are very scary looking, which is why she has the mask on with the little blades on it. Because she's a little kid that's like, that'll scare demons, right? Like, so it makes sense to her. But it's just, that one's the courage one. Like, they're all, Jalisco's never waste your pain, right? Yeah. And that's because everybody dies around her, right? It's the femicide one. And also her dress has blades at the end of it. So it's like a double, like, entendre because she has pain. And blades inflict pain as well, right? And so there's extra little like nuances throughout all of them, which I find is really fun. Ruka is my instant karma one, and hers is hers is the justice one. I forgot the quote of it because I'm on like my 13th book right now. But
the fact that you're on your 13th book, like I can't, like I am an aspiring creative, and I'm like, how do professional creative people do it? Like, you guys just pump stuff out, and I'm like, I wish. How do you do this? How do you like? I'm sorry, I'm diverging from everything, but I just need to know, like, how do you go about it? Is it just at this point like kind of muscle memory, like your process? And
well, I do outlines. I absolutely do outlines on every screenplay that I write, just because if you can't write an outline, you're not going to write the story. Right. And so I as a writer, I choose things that I care about. So that is like all the social injustice. I care about that stuff. I have to research it, so make sure I care about it more because it's just so dark and depressing. Right. But for that reason, it's like, okay, let me bring it to light. Let me bring in a little bit of authenticity to it, but it's still a story, so it has to be made up. But like that makes it more real, and that makes it more important to me. So I will finish the story, absolutely.
Right. So I need to know, where do you get like a lot of your ideas from? like the names to your stuff, everything. Like where I just need to know, where does this come from?
My mind? I don't know.
Like it just comes out of I don't know. Like I love your titles. I love so we mentioned prior, like while you were here, like that you just had a comic book drop yesterday, if I'm not wrong. Yes. And it's called Lipstick Clica.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So when I didn't think of the title, I got brought on by Scout Comics. Sean DeMott brought me in. He's a producer of it.
Right.
And they have Night of the Cadillacs, which is the original. It's very much like the Warriors meets vampires, like meets like Underworld put together.
Ooh.
So this one clique up within the gangsters, with all the gangs, is Lipstick Clique, that's the Chicana gang. And so he found me at a signing. I was signing at Galaxy Comics over in Van Nuys. And this guy walks in and starts talking. I was just like, okay, usual stuff. And he's just like, I'm a producer. I was like, okay, usual stuff, right? And so he actually is legit, which is very cool.
Do you get like a lot of people that come to you and are just not legit and are like
they mean well, but they're
it kind of goes nowhere.
Yeah.
Got you.
And so, and so he just offered it to me, and like he said, read these books, let me know what you think, et cetera, et cetera. And then I met with his partner as well, and then we just started writing Lipstick Clique. It's a 3-book series, so three floppies or 3 comics. This is the first one that came out, and it's literally just about a vampire gang, a Chicana vampire gang, who they get their names, their origin story. They get their name, they get their powers as well, because they're vampires, so they have a little bit of powers. And it's a big turf war. Because like if I'm in East LA and I'm a gang, and pretend I'm not, but it's always turf battles. Like what are we fighting over? And it's just things like that. And so but these are big vampire gangs with powers, and it's very very cliquey.
So cool. I want this series now. Oh my gosh. Okay. Do you want to talk a little bit more about Lipstick Clique, or do you want to leave it at that?
That's up to you.
I mean, honestly, like this sounds like epic. I am so excited for that. For Lipstick Clique, I'm gonna get it. Expect me to get it. Yeah. So tell me, you expanded your creative business into the comic world with Phoenix Studios, correct? So like, can you tell us more about the mission and goals of your studio?
Yeah, it's really simple. Just to create a superhero mindset with all individuals, regardless of like gender, sexuality, like race, and all this extra things that we just don't get it. Like I was saying, like we, as in anybody, an underserved audience, right? Like we're underserved audiences, and we just don't get representation. We don't get positive representation if we do get representation.
Right.
And so like if you don't see yourself growing up and saying like, I can be a superhero, I can be a princess, I can be a lawyer, I can be a judge.
Yeah.
Then you're not gonna think that growing up. And so it's just very simple, like storytelling reflects democracy. And so in a way, it's just like, of course you can do it. Like there's a million white guy superhero movies, and of course they all think they're superheroes and they think they can save the day.
Yeah.
Why? Because they were taught that they were the prince. They were taught that they were superheroes and they will always save a girl and they will always save whomever, the city and the world. And us as females, we don't get that, right?
No,
we're the princess that needs help, right? A little prince has to come and save us, and we can't save ourselves. And so that's why I have my princesses, where they just go on adventures. They just have fun little adventures with their little pet, their little mascot, and that's it. It's that simple.
I mean, I love that you say that, because even within like Latin media growing up for myself personally, a lot of like the heroines that I would see on TV on the Latin side, they were all romantic heroines. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my romance. But like, it was always that, right? Like they need to be saved by the hero and everything. And like, I love that you mentioned that. And that's true. Like, as women, we grow up with this, with not a lot, Latina women specifically, like we grow up with not a lot of, superhero influences, right?
Absolutely.
Other than the ones that we see portrayed in popular media, especially, here living in the US, like it's all white men. White men play, in capes, being superheroes. And we just don't see enough Latin representation within superheroes. Like I think only recently we started seeing a little bit about that with like the Spider-Man multiverse like universe, which I think is really cool. We have an Afro-Latino as our protagonist. We have Miguel O'Hara, who's like, like another Spider-Man. He's great.
We have America Chavez coming out, but we have a little bit, but like where's our one origin story for Latina? Whereas a million origin stories, there can just be more than one as well.
Exactly. And also these are coming from like big comic book firms like Marvel and DC and everything. So the fact that you're doing this is just so cool to me. Like this is coming from your multiverse, right? And that's epic to even think about, because you don't, like, until I found out about you, I didn't even know that there was like a Latino, well, in this case, Latina multiverse going on. And I love that. I love that you're doing that.
Thank you.
And back to my questions. What role does the majestic Native and Latina princess comic series play in promoting diversity and representation in the comic industry?
It's just that. It's a modern day princess, which I think is really fun. So I grew up with the princesses, like I was saying, for Disney, and I loved them all. But like you grow up and you look back, you're like, oh, Belle, that's Stockholm Syndrome. Oh, this, that's that. Like literally Ariel gives up everything to go kiss a boy like she's never met. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, you're completely right.
Yeah, the Grimm brothers as well. But it's just stuff like that. Like you don't see it growing up, but you're like when you wake up to it, you're like, oh, okay, that's what they're trying to tell me. It's what they're feeding me.
Yeah.
Right, that a prince will literally come and save the day. And, Cinderella, you want to marry up. That's literally what they're trying to tell you.
Yeah.
And so it's just things like, no, here's a princess, like I was saying, it's a princess adventure. Here's a little fun, little cute mascot as well. And it's very Home Alone style, right? Because they can't fight, but they're strategic and they're smart.
Right.
And so it's very much all ages. That one's for my younger audience, for elementary and older. But it's just, here's a cute little tale that says you can do it. And that's all you need to know.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. I love that. Okay, so how important is it to have Latinx artists involved in projects in your series? I know that you mentioned that you have Latino artists that help you with your work. How important do you think it is to have that Latino representation within comic book artistry and just creation in general?
It's extremely important because they understand the meaning behind all the books. I don't need to pitch a Latina artist, hey, let's do a Latina superhero for XYZ reasons. They'll just say, okay, right? Yeah. Because they understand the reason why they're on board. And so we're all within the same mission.
Right.
I don't need to coerce anything for, anybody from anything. And so that, and it's also just representation, because that's all I'm harking about right now is representation. Is just like, of course I'm going to walk the walk. Of course I'm going to hire people. Like, when I go to schools, like I challenge people, like name a Latina artist.
Yeah.
And I wait, and nobody can answer.
And everyone's always Frida Kahlo.
No, Latina artist, like Latina comic artist.
Oh yeah, no, it's hard. It's hard. Like I can't even think of one. I mean, I know that you're a writer as well. Do you also do some of the art in the stuff? No, so it's mainly from other artists. Can you talk about a little bit about the artists that you work with? You can expand on all the amazing artists that you've got into.
Yeah, so Eva Cabrera, Amanda Janet Gonzalez, Andrew Romero's my letters for all of them. She was originally my graphic designer, and I was like, hey, be my letter. She's like, I've never done it. I was like, it doesn't matter. And she's like, okay. And so they're just really all for Jalisco. There's 6, there's 4 positions, pencil, ink, color, letter. And my color set, there was 3 colors because I want to be all colorist. But all of us, that was all our first comic book, except for one of them. And so out of 7 girls, or 7 Latinas, that was our first comic book.
That is amazing. Yeah. So how did you get in touch with each one of them?
I got really lucky. I'm a social media person, so I'm on Instagram, and I cold wrote all of them. I looked through all their portfolios. I went through their Instagrams, I went through their ports, and if they had enough followers in regards to not too much, if they wrote Marvel or DC, I can't afford them, but or Disney, I can't afford them. But if they had good work and not too many credits per se, just so that I can afford them. And then I cold wrote them, and I wrote, and I found people, etc. And the first person I wrote, I was like, hey, let me take you to lunch. She was like, okay. So we went to lunch in downtown. This is pre-COVID. And I was like, hey, do you want to be a penciler? I give her my little pitch for Jalisco. And she's like, no, but I will be your colorist. And he's like, I will give you a tweet because all my followers are artists. And I was like, okay, right. I didn't even think that far. And so, but she thought so. She's smart. And so she thought of that. And so she did it. She wrote Latina writer looking for Latina artist for Latina superhero. Some pay, drop your port. And I got 80 something replies.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got everyone else from there.
Oh, so how was that, looking through all these portfolios and trying to find that style for your...
I really loved it. I thought it was really cool because everyone's so different, and there are different levels as well of experience, which is cool. But you start notice things can they draw backgrounds, right? Because everybody can draw a character. Everyone wants to be a character, conceptual artist, and that's cool. But some people just want to be backgrounds, and some people just want to do props. It just depends. But I need someone that can do comic book panels instead of just cover pages, right? Same thing. It just depends what they want, which is totally fine. And so that's something you see, is it close enough to the tone that I like? Because I screenshotted all that particular tone and style that I liked.
Right.
And so I asked them, can you do this? And they say yes. Or they'll give me a test page as well.
Can I ask, in regards to who are some of your, I guess, writing heroes, and can I ask who they are? Who are you inspired by?
For comics or books?
Either. Both. I said either. Both.
Okay, for comics, I had to do research because I haven't read a comic until I delved into comic books. And so Alan Moore does really well in regards to the most memorable stuff.
Oh my God.
Because like YouTube videos, like they're like pretty much just like B for Vendetta, Watchmen, Killing Joke, all these.
I love Alan Moore.
Yeah, so anything dark, he's got it taken care of. Anything dark and twisted and a little bit crude. So he's got that down. So him as, not necessarily like my favorite, but just to see his work, because he has very memorable work. And so it's like research as to why people like his book so much. And then in regards to writing, I like different stuff. Like in regards to artists, Jenny Holzer writes really great stuff.
I'm writing these down. What was that name?
Jenny Holzer. She's a really cool artist.
Jenny Holzer? Oh my God. I'm telling you, I love hearing other writers talk about their favorite writers, because like it's always because I love Neil Gaiman. He's probably one of my favorite writers ever. So like I love that you're talking about Alan Moore, because Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore, they both started as comic book creators. Well, he was a writer, but he like you, he transitioned into the comic book world. So it's just really cool, like hearing you talk about that. Now, on regards to like just the whole process, so it started with that. Then it started with like, oh, I have this idea, this outline of what I want for a Latina superhero comic book, and then you went out there and you're like, hey, I need an artist who's out there and who's interested. So like, and then after that, like what was the process of getting published?
Oh, I self-published.
Oh, you self-published. Oh, wow. What was that like?
Easy. It's business. I come from business, so it's just like at the end of the day, it's just still business. So you look it up online, you get 3 quotes like you always do, and you see what's the lowest PPU based on how many units you're going to get. And so, because you need to make money, right? So you can keep going to the next book. And so I got 2,000 books at one time. Well, most times I get 2,000, if not 1,000. And then you just start taking it to stores. You start doing signings. You start doing Comic Cons, and it's just it's a big circuit. Like it's just a system over and over again for every single one of my books.
Right. Was it scary for you at all, like entering into this world, or like you already kind of like had an idea of what it would be like from previous experience? Like what was it like?
No, neither of those. I've never been on comics, and so, but I did start going to conventions, and all that stuff. Like I got really lucky because people were really open to us. So I got invited to a few conventions at the very top. LA Comic Con brought me right in when I had my first book, and I just had one book and a big old table, and so it's just really nice. Just I got welcomed in because they know of the need, and that we do need a Latina superhero, we do need Latina artists and Latino writers and all that extra stuff. Did
you find yourself like Comic Cons and like they were just a lot more open to have you come in? Like did you feel, how was it like navigating that space within Comic Con? Because as we know, we have like a million booths all over the place. Like when people approach your booth and like want to talk to you about your comics, what is that experience like?
That's fine. I like it. I did marketing beforehand, so it's the same thing. Like people walk up to you and they're just happy. They want to know about the information. Like I obviously have to do the sales and the conversion, all that extra stuff. But it's the same thing. It's just me talking to somebody and saying, "Here's my books. This is what it's about." I'm not like necessarily selling them per se. If they want to get them, cool, right? Even better. Yeah. But it's like, here these exist, right? Here's have a little kid look at it and be like, "This person looks like you." Like little extra things that mean much more than me making $1.
Have there been any memorable experiences having had your comic books released and just your work released? What are some experiences that stand out to you in regards to like what the public has told you or what you have felt in regards to like this amazing thing that you created?
Yeah, so I have a few. One of the early ones was Jalisco. So my dance from Mexico, Blade's Command of Dress, she dances folklorico. And so LA Comic Con, then afterwards somebody writes me and she's like, "I got your book. I live up north with the farm workers, like in the Central Valley." And so she offers free folklorico classes to the farm workers' kids. Wow. And so she's like, they're passing the book around, they're all reading, because I have Spanish and English for Jalisco. And she's like, so now instead of saying get in your first position, which is where you're holding your dress and your hands out, she's like, she says get in your superhero positions. And she says they all light up and throw their arms out like holding their dress. And so it's just little things like that. You're like, good, like it worked. They have a superhero mindset.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that. And I actually had Carlos Samaniego. He's like he has the first LGBTQ mariachi band out
Oh,
there.
nice.
He's amazing.
Is it Arcoiris?
Arcoiris, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and like we talked a lot about folklorico and like traditions and like how what he has told me is that apparently in the US we're doing a much better job of like preserving like our cultural roots, whereas in Mexico they're starting to, but it's not quite there. Has your books kind of have you had any books had your books go to Mexico, or like what have you had them kind of go out of the US?
I'm on Amazon by default just because my distributor has access to Amazon. And so they sold Santa, which is the second one. She is my Texas girl. She sold out in Japan, which I thought was really weird because I went on Amazon one time and it said sold out. And I thought that was really odd because you can just print, and publish, etc.
Wow.
But not through me, but through the distributor. And so that was really cool. So I'm technically worldwide. I'm on Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, and Amazon as well.
Ooh, okay. Funny that you say Japan. I know that we have like a weird little Chicano like subculture in Japan.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's maybe that has something. Do you think so? I don't know. This is just me having my outside thought. Now you're making me think about it. Like that is so cool. I didn't know that. Like so somewhere in a Japanese comic book store, your work is there. That's all I can think about now. Sorry. Like I'm having like a weird like little vomity thought all over the place, but I'm just having a moment. That is so cool.
It is really cool.
Like how does that make you feel? Like knowing that your work has kind of transcended borders and like it's probably somewhere out there, like influencing a completely different audience than maybe you intended.
Which is totally fine. I think it's really big. It's much bigger than me, which I learned really early in, and like that's a great thing. I want it to be much bigger than me.
Yeah, and that's so cool. Okay, back to my page. I feel like I do want to. I feel like I interrupted your thought, but like you said that you had several experiences of when you've had people like look at your work and like what they've told you. Do you have any more that you want to share? Because before I move on, I want you to have that moment to like just if you want to express like, oh, like these were really cool moments to have.
Oh, well, another early one is back when I had less books. I had a little Jalisco doll, and it was Elena de Avalor. It wasn't Barbie, right, because there's only Teresa. But Elena de Avalor is Latina. And so my friend made me a costume for the doll itself. And so she had her arms, like we glued the arms and everything else. It stayed holding it. And like, I just remember the set of like 3 little girls ran up and like one girl just froze and just stared at it for like, I even got to stand up and take a photo from the side because that's how long she froze because she's never seen a doll that looks like her.
What are your aspirations for the continued development of your work? Like where do you hope to go with your work? And ultimately, where do you see yourself in the future?
My next stepping stone is to get into film and TV.
Right. So like, have you reached out to, I know we talked about this a little bit before we even started, but like, has there been any studios that have reached out to you already about the work that you've done?
Yeah.
Can you expand on that or you're not allowed to?
So far they've passed, so I can tell you it's no big deal. But when Jalisco came out, Warner Brothers brought me in, and then Disney Television Animation, DTVA, brought me in as well. That was just for Jalisco, which is really nice because it was like, I'm just a person that just showed up at LA Comic Con, right? Like it was just a really cool little thing. Netflix, I had to go back to Netflix. I was speaking to a production manager. Amazon had it for a really long time, for a while, and then they ended up passing regardless. But like, you just keep taking it out. I'm talking with a production company, a Latina production company, in regards to same thing, just taking it to the next step.
Wow. Ooh. Okay, I'm excited to see your stuff like on the big screen. The silver screen. What is TV? Is it silver screen? I'm excited to see it on TV, and I'm excited to see it in movies. I'm excited to see where it all goes. So can you tell me, in what ways do you hope to inspire future generations and creators to further embrace diversity and inclusivity in the world of comics and writing and just art in general?
Honestly, just them having their voice. Like, that's all it is like the I can do it mentality, which is like the superhero mentality, if you think about it. It's just like, of course you can do it. Just because you don't see it out there is irrelevant. Right now, of course, I'm bringing books out there, but there are other creators as well that are working just for exposure, just being like, we exist. We exist in a positive light. And so if I can do it, you can do it. And that's really the truth of it. Anybody can do it, not just me. And so if they have that mentality that I can do it, whether it's something to go to the moon or if it's to, go to law school or whatnot, I was like, of course you can. And so if they can carry that mentality with them, then it worked.
If for someone who is like aspiring to go on this journey the same way that you have, do you have any advice for them? Things that you in foresight now, or could be like, oh, if I could go back in time and maybe had figured this out then, like things would be so much easier for me now. Like, have you had those moments? Do you have any advice to give anybody on that regard?
I'll give advice, but I don't have any of those moments. I'm really lucky. Like failure is good for you, right? 'Cause that's the way you learn. Not that I've necessarily failed, but like hardships, that's where you learn, right?
Yeah.
If everything's easy, you learn nothing. And so just things that I thought, would work for is research, right? I research your world, no matter what industry you go into, you research it. What's the best comic like, right? Well, I know Alan Moore because I researched him. You go on YouTube, you put the top 10 best comics ever, and it's subjective, but like you look at enough of them, they all have the same answers.
Yeah.
So Truth by Consensus says Watchmen.
Yeah.
Right? It says,
exactly.
All these ones that are the best because everyone says so collectively. And so, research your world, see who came before you, see where we are now, and see what you can bring as an individual that hasn't had their voice, seen at all, since the beginning. And so you're going to bring it and you're going to raise it up with your stuff as well. But you already have to be educated with the prior stuff, with prior history. So that's one. And then two is find your tribe.
Yeah.
And that's really easy. They come to you. They exist if you know how to find them. But they're your support, right? They will collaborate. They have the same mission as you do, just in a different vein, but they have the same mission as you do as well.
I had the question. I'm telling you, like, I feel like I'm trying to ask you as many questions as people have asked me to ask you. And like, they're all jumbled in there because I have a friend who, this is more of like a personal question. If you can choose whether or not you want to answer it. But one of the questions that she wanted me to ask you now that you're here is, did you have any, like, growing up with, you're third generation, right? For her, she's first generation, and she's found it very hard to break into a creative career, coming from that background of like, first generation parents trying to tell their kid like, you got to hustle it, like hustle it. You're like art and doing and writing and all this stuff. They're fun, but they're not going to pay the bills, right? So she asked me to ask you, what would be your advice to someone coming from that sort of background and someone who's trying to break out into the art world and maybe is finding it difficult or feels like it's just not one of those careers that they can break out into? Can you maybe give an answer to a person like that? Do you have any personal insights on that?
So all parents and literally just everyone in general, they do the best that they can. And that's where you get to remember that, right? Like it may not be the best of what you need and what you want, but they do try the best that they can. So every parent, what do they want? They want their kids to succeed,
right?
Regardless of what generation they're from. And so, yes, of course, they want her to succeed and be happy and, be wealthy and be able to take care of herself.
Right.
That's a given, and that's totally fine. They don't understand, right? Because they come from different mentalities. They don't understand that they don't have the extra layer and cushion like certain white people do. And that's fine too. I did not have that either, right? We just don't have it. But we work harder, right? As Latinas, we just work harder because we have no choice too.
Right.
And so that's part one. So just remember where they're coming from. They come from a good place.
Right.
Not that you have to agree with it, but they come from a good place regardless. But the part two is that like you have a job and you have a career, and those are two different things.
Right.
So your career is what you actually really want. You want to be an artist, you want to be a writer, you want to be a film director, etc. That is your career, and that's fine. But your job pays your bills. Right. It keeps the roof over your head.
It funds what you ultimately want to do.
Yeah, and it does, and that's part of it, and that's fine. You do need to pay, for food. You need to pay for X, Y, Z. You need to survive.
Right.
So that is your job, whether it's at Starbucks or literally anywhere. I don't care where, but like that is your job until you can reach and quit your job to get to your career.
Was that your own experience as well?
No, but I'm mine's slightly different just because my family's from Los Angeles, and so I just got to live at my grandma's house. Like I had a really low overhead. Right?
Yeah.
Like this happened during pandemic, so it was fine. I moved back to my grandma's house. I had extra little money to pay for my comics. Right? Like, and I did like the little gigs. You do little gigs here and there, but it's not like. But same, I'm fortunate because my overhead is very, very low. So I can afford that extra things.
Right.
I went to college for free because I was on a full ride scholarship, so I don't have debts. right? Like those are little things, but I worked really hard to get to that scholarship for free, right? Like, like I had to hustle to get those things.
Right. Like, so you grew up with your grandma. I grew up with my grandma as well, so we share that experience. When it comes to like strong maternal influences, do you feel like that really, I'm assuming that your grandma was a very strong maternal influence to you. Correct me if I'm wrong. But do you find yourself seeing like your work reflect that? Like,
absolutely, yeah. So I got lucky because I'm on matriarchs on both sides, matriarchies on both sides of my family.
Yeah.
So my parents are divorced. My mom worked a lot, but like my mom is obviously the strength of the family. My grandma's great. My great aunt on my dad's side was the matriarch of the family. And so like you just see like everybody honors them. Like we aren't same. We're a third generation, and so it's not like there's no misogyny, right? Like we're not the machos and that type of mentality because. Right. And we're also from, East LA, so we're very, hardcore regardless on both sides of my family. And so it's just like, of course we're strong, of course we're equal, right? Like I have a brother, and like my mom's just like, you wash dishes this week, you wash dishes next week. Like everything was equal down the line. Yeah. I had 3 chores, he had 3 chores, right? Like
I aspire to be your mother one day. That will be my dream. It's just like, I have a daughter and I have a son, y'all better trade off chores. Not the daughter of serving everyone, cleaning everything. I aspire.
Yeah, and it was true. So that was the way I was raised. It's like, okay, it's my turn for dishes. Okay, it's his turn for dishes. I'm good. And that was it. And so I was fair, right? Everything is literally fair between my brother and I. And so that's the way I grew up because that's all I knew. Everything is fair down the line. And so that's a matriarchy, right? If you think of patriarchy, the girl is oppressed because the male figure says so. Right. And that's the unfortunate truth about it. And so when I went to the real world, and this is like, you're going to get paid less because you're a girl, and you're going to get paid even less because you're Latina, even though you're doing the same quality of work, just we say so because we're in a patriarchy, that's unfair. And so like I was just always mad, right? Because I never knew that growing up.
Yeah, like that internalized rage for sure.
Yeah, and so it's just like, it's not fair, obviously, and it's not fair at all. But like so many people accept it. And we can't do anything about it. So like, of course I hire all females. Of course I hire all Latinos. If they counter me on their contract, I say okay. Yeah. I don't fight them because it's like, great, I encourage you to, counter me and say you want this amount instead. I find it fair, but like, good, counter me because it's better. It's good practice for you for the future. Right. And so there's little things. It's like, yes, of course you fight, but because I grew up such as a fighter.
Yeah. Do you see that a lot within like Latina creatives where it's kind of hard for them to say what they want? Do you see that a lot? Because I feel like that's also, it's hard for me to ask for like ask for more. It's something that I'm trying to practice myself. Did you ever find yourself having that sort of mentality when it came to like pursuing your work? But you just said that you're strong. No. So I feel like, no, this is not a problem for you. But like, what mentality do you think you need to kind of make it from your own experience, having like living out? Because let me tell you, it's a dream. Like what you're doing is an absolute dream. So what mentality would you encourage people to have when pursuing this career?
Just to get up every day, and that's it. Like honestly, it's just keep going. Or like just keep swimming, right? Like your fix are. It's just like you just have to keep going regardless. If you fall, that's fine. You're gonna get back up regardless. Right. Like if you're a little baby and you trip and fall, you don't like give up. And you're like, okay, I'm a crawler the rest of my life. No, you stand back up and you walk. You'll eventually learn to walk. And it's the same thing. It's just like people think everything's so hard, and nothing is really hard. Right. It's people that make things hard
because they overthink it, right? Mm-hmm. That's the problem. That is the problem. Do you have any recommendations out there for comic books or like books in general that you want to kind of give a shout out to as well?
For reading, like for great reading, Mouse, M-A-U-S. I say Mouse. I don't know if it's Mouse or Mouse. It's really great, and it's animals, and it's during the World War II, like with the Nazis and the Jews.
I've seen it. It's regarding the Holocaust, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so Mouse is one.
That's a really great one. And he'll never make it into a film. He doesn't want to. He did it in honor of his dad.
I think he was if I'm not wrong, he was a Holocaust survivor, I believe.
His father was here.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Any writers out there? Any like Latin influences that you want to put out?
There's a lot of great writers. I know more so industry people that I think are doing really amazing work. And slowly but surely moving. I have Chicana Directors Initiative, so it's a nonprofit for Latina directors and DPs. Yeah. And so like I watch them, right? Like we have different levels of experience, but like you watch the upper echelon people and like they're just doing great. Like one of the directors, Ganja Montiero, so there was 3 directors on the Wednesday series, the new Wednesday series for TV. And so it was Tim Burton, and it was a gentleman, and then it was her.
Oh,
and like
wow.
that's it. She was the one extra hire of the 3 directors for the whole series.
Wow.
So she's doing amazing work.
And yeah, is there, I mean, we're reaching the end here. So is there any last final thoughts that you want to put out there?
Yeah, just thank you so much. I appreciate it. And it's like these books are good for everything. Like if you want to read them or gift them, they make great gifts. Something with princesses are all ages.
I'm getting them. I hope you know. Like you're about to see on your storefront, like at least a couple comic books like being taken out. For sure, Jalisco. I'm so interested in that one. And your new one, which is Lipstick Clica, because that sounds so cool. Like when it comes to vampires, I was never into like the earliest memories for vampires for me was like the Twilight phase for everybody. I never got into Twilight, but I've been interested in like What We Do in the Shadows. I don't know if you've ever seen it, like stuff like that. So I'm very interested in your book for comic books. Oh, I'm so excited. And yeah, I just want to say I am so happy, Kayden, that you made it on here. I'm gonna tell you right now, I reached out to a lot of people to come on here, and you were that person that I'm like, if she says yes, I will be the happiest person in the world. Okay, and the fact that you said yes and are here and are doing this with me and having this conversation, I appreciate it to no end. And I just want to say that your own journey is something that I resonate with as someone who does content creation, and I'm so excited to follow your journey and see where everything goes. I really hope that everything works out for you. Everything that you want just comes true, and that I get to see your work on TV and movies and really see like this. It being. I mean, already it lives, right? But it kind of be having like this new kind of life breathed into it through a different platform. And I just really hope that everything goes well. All the good energy to you.
Thank you.
And just to say, again, thank you. And I'm going to encourage everyone to catch up with everything that you're doing. Is there any platforms that you want to share so that people know where to reach you and where to look at your stuff?
Yes, I'm mainly on Instagram, and that is Latina Superheroes and also Latina Princesses.
Wow. Okay. And is there a website that you want to put out there as well?
Yes,
Okay, yes, go for it.
It's also latinasuperheroes.com, and then I have a shop on there.
That's it for today's show. Again, Kayden, a million gracias, a million thanks yous, everything for coming on here. I really appreciate you having this conversation. And we'll be seeing everyone on the next Capítulo. Thank you so much for being part of today's show. Adios.